All right, hello. So today I'm going to be talking about feedback. And the feedback that I'm going to be showing you CL for today is strictly for when you're really starting off at like beginner level. And I'm spending a bit of time at the beginning of the video to really encourage you to move beyond this beginner level. I know that when I was first learning this, I really needed somewhere to start, and I'm sure many of you do as well. But let me tell you about my personal feelings about feedback and how I do it in the classroom and how I also want to be able to do it on Desmos. So I never, ever, ever want to give feedback that the result of it is to discourage students from trying. Whether that be in the classroom or on Desmos or some other platform, I am all about encouraging my students to push themselves further and try something that they might not feel too comfortable with, and use their knowledge to kind of like put themselves out there on a limb to try something, which a lot of my students are really uncomfortable with when I first get them in class, and then they grow with me during the year. So I don't want to suddenly, because I'm using Desmos or some other platform, stop what's so important to me in my classroom. So that is one warning about the type of feedback that I'm going to be showing you to do today. It's easy to program, but it's also very easy to discourage students with this really like clear-cut, I guess, feedback. I don't know how to describe it any better. Another thing, when I try to provide feedback, I'm always thinking about like, how can I get a student to react as, let me think about that some more, or like, oh yeah, I have to consider that, or something like that. And I don't want to get the reaction of like, well, let me try 9. Well, let me try 2. Let me try 7. And they're just like randomly trying numbers and not even thinking about it, or like 7.6, 7.7, 7.8, you know. I want them to actually go back to the drawing board and like try to find their error, or whatever the case might be, reason through it. The feedback that I provide should be helpful and not just like correct or not correct. And I did a lot of that this past year because I was just making it by, but I'm going back to the drawing board now and learning new techniques, and I'll share many of those with you in another video. Provide visual feedback whenever possible. And that often leads into this next one, which is when it's a graphing type of question or I'm using a graph, that I'm trying to provide the feedback on that graph rather than in a note separately. A lot of what I just talked about is sort of thrown to the wind when I'm teaching the beginning skills of giving feedback. So I just gave you all that information, and now we're going to kind of go against a lot of it, just to get you started. This is just to get you started. Here's a multiple choice question. The answer is 13. We want to provide students feedback right now. If they mark 10, it shows up on the teacher side that it's wrong. 13 shows up correct on the teacher side, but the student's not getting any feedback. So if this was a type of question that you want feedback for, you're going to add a note, which I just did. And I'm going to drag it down to the bottom because I typically give my feedback at the bottom. And you can label it as feedback. Oh, I'm on slide 2. Look at that. Oh, yes, slide 2. And so because I'm on slide 2, I'm going to say feedback 2, meaning slide 2. This is multiple choice, slide 2, so MC2, and directions 2. So the reason for naming these, and I haven't done that in the previous videos, is that we're going to need it when we give feedback. So we're going to go into the CL, and in the CL, we're going to say, oh, this multiple choice question, we already said that check means that it's correct. So we're going to say this multiple choice question, when it's correct, give this message. So go into the CL in the feedback note, and we're going to do what's called a content sync. We're going to say when it's correct, give this message. When it's wrong, give this message. Otherwise, just leave it blank. Don't give a message. So when MC2 is submitted, when it's turned in, when they press the submit button, and when MC2, this is script is what we're going to be using. So this check right here that's pulling up, see that it says variable next to it? That's because back in the multiple choice component in the CL, we set up check equals these conditions, and then that's correct. So we want that check. We're referencing that check from before. It looks like there's a problem, but there's not. It's just that we're not done writing the content sync. So I'm going to say, oh wait, we want to say what we're going to say. Great job. When the MC2 is submitted, but they're not correct, so I'm just going to leave that out. They're not correct, so I'm not writing that they're correct. You don't have to say not correct, just leave it out. Oops. Please try again. And like I already said, otherwise nothing. We're just leaving blank in the parentheses, in the quotation marks. So I just leave it like this, or you can put a bunch of spaces if you want. So if I go back here and I choose 10, on the teacher dashboard it's wrong, but once I hit submit, I'm going to see my message. Oops, try again. So now I'm going to try 13, and on the teacher side, it marks it correct. And as soon as I hit submit, I get the great job message. And because this is multiple choice, students literally just have to do that and they get their answers. So if that's what you're looking for, then it works. Same exact question, we want an answer of 13. We've already got in the input what conditions we need to make it correct, and it's underneath the check variable that we created. So we're going to add a note. I'm going to put that note at the bottom just because that's how I do it. Feedback for slide 3. Input for slide 3. This one's not multiple choice and it's called a math input, so I just call it input. And directions 3. All right, so we're going to be going into the feedback CL, and just like the last one, we're going to be referencing, instead of MC2, we're going to be referencing input 3, and we're going to reference that check variable right here, this check variable. If all of that works out, then we know that it's correct. So go in here, content, when input 3 is submitted and input 3 script check, the message that we want to say is great job. When input 3 has been submitted and nothing else, oops, try again. Otherwise, and leave it blank. So here we can see that if we enter the wrong answer of 2, we get an oops, try again. And if we enter 13, we get great job. A lot of people, including me, use emojis of check marks, X's, or yield signs or whatever to help students kind of quickly see that. All right, so this one is a trig problem. We're solving for the angle, and I put that the answer is 35.54. It's in degrees, and it's rounded to the nearest hundredth. So if I add a note and bring it to the bottom, and this is going to be input for slide 4. This is feedback for slide 4. I'm going to label it content when input 4 is submitted and input for script, check, well done. When input for submitted, and they're not correct, oops, try again. So this is the message that, you know, can be very discouraging for students. They just keep getting oops, try again on a question like this one. Say that they do the work correctly and they like don't round, you know, they just whole number 35. Well, they should pay more attention than that. So maybe they go back and they're like, 35.5, wrong again. I don't know. I'm just stopping. And so I don't want that type of reaction. They didn't read the directions, or they didn't understand what the nearest hundredth was. I mean, they did the trig, like that's if just a little nudge and they'll be there. So I'll show you how to do that in another video. But for this video, they have to get it exactly precise, and then they get the well done message. All right, on to the last one is asking for the area of this rectangle. A 6x4 would be an area of 24 square units. We're not going to worry about the square units part of it. We'll just worry about the 24. And I've already set up the check variable for that. So we're going to insert a note. And this one is input 5, feedback 5, and again a content sync when input 5 is submitted and input 5 script check. Nice work. When they have submitted it and nothing else, oops, try again, otherwise nothing. And I want to show you something that's going to happen here. So we're going to enter 24 as the correct answer, and I'm going to submit it, and it says nice work for the student. Looks good. Teacher side, dot. So remember, I've talked about this in another video. That dot says there's something for the teacher to check here, but we've already checked the answer. So check this every time that you're designing your activities, because here there's a graph, and that graph, if we take a look here, does not have CL. So we can just add in that read-only true. And that way, when the student types in 24, and it's correct, they're getting the message that it's correct, you're getting the message that it's correct. If they type in something like 2, then you're both getting the oops message. And the last thing that I should mention really quickly is if this is named something different than check, like answer, then down here it needs to be answer. But also, because we're referencing it for that feedback, we're getting this error message, and it's because this is now being called answer. Input 5, sorry, is being called answer. Now it'll work. So it doesn't really matter what you call it, as long as you're just consistent and always referencing the same thing. All right, take care. Bye.